Hey, I'm your host, Marissa Panay. Welcome to Your Brand is Showing, the podcast for service providers who are tired of blending in and wondering why no matter how much you market your business, you're still not attracting the clients you want. Spoiler, it all comes back to your brand. So let's make sure your brand is saying the right thing to the right people so you can finally create content that truly connects. Welcome to another episode of Your Brand is Showing. Today, I have a guest on the show, Julian Blackmore. He is a composer, a musician, and an audio specialist. Do you want to give a little bit of an intro for yourself?
Sure. Hello.
Hello.
So I have been working in music and audio since a long time, since last century. So like working in studios when it was just 2-inch tape and Ataris and playing in bands and doing sessions, touring, writing music, working in theater, playing in sketchy venues and big stadiums, and then kind of moved into the Hudson Valley and did more kind of stuff where I didn't have to get dressed. So now I still work in music, but also more audio, making noise sound good.
So the reason I have Julian on today is because a lot of people overlook sound. It's that thing that's always there, but you don't pay attention to it until it's a problem. So kind of want to talk about the role of sound in branding and storytelling and getting your message across in your content. Like when it comes to the subconscious and when people are listening to music and sound, how do you, when you're composing something or writing something, know what sounds to include and what shouldn't when they're creating content for their business? What are things that they should pay attention to?
That's like 16 questions in one. So in terms of music, it's a very powerful thing for two reasons. It's linked to memories, and people will often, they'll hear something and it will immediately take them back to, a time when that piece of music or that song was a big part of their life. So there's the memory aspect. And then there's also, we've, as certainly and everything I say about music is kind of based on Western music, because I can't speak to other music cultures as much as Western music, but as Westerners, we're kind of conditioned to have certain responses from music. So, if someone wants something that's emotional and dark, there's like a certain formula for creating that because we've heard that so many times. And it's like that will elicit the response. Whether that's nature or nurture is a completely different debate. And, you know, way too complex for my tiny brain at this time of the morning. So there's the memory effect and there's the condition effect. There's also kind of a culture and zeitgeist and pop culture aspect that, take 80s music, for instance, that has a certain kind of vibe to it. And if you play an 80s piece or something that's 80s inspired, it's going to create a certain vibe. So there's the nature nurture conditioned responses to music, and then there's the pop culture side of music that will create certain responses. You take that and then add a little of your own zing to it.
So going off of that, I guess like the way that a business could think about it is if you hear something and all of a sudden your memory is triggered and you're like, oh, this feels 80s or this feels techno. If that isn't the vibe that you want to give to whatever that piece of content is, then that's a clear red flag not to use that. But I guess what would be a good way for a business to know what their sound is? Like prime example, you did the intro to the podcast and like the little sound there. So like for me, I was like, hey, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. I kind of want it to be high energy, get people excited about the show, but I also don't want it to be like, because this isn't like a crazy zany show. So in that aspect, how did you, let's use this as an example since people just heard the intro. How did you come up with that type of sound to like align it to this business?
Well, a lot of it's trial and error. And to kind of add on to the previous question, sometimes the memory effect is literally the amount of times you hear it and you associate that sound or that music with the brand. So sometimes it's not so much about, oh, this sound. When I say sound, I also mean music. This sound will elicit this response. Sometimes it's a matter of you've heard it, like the Apple chime. You've heard it so many times, like you know what that is, and all the things it conjures up for you. So sometimes it's about you defining your brand with that sound. But to actually answer your question, as a business owner, you'll know what your kind of mission statement is if that's not too much of a wanky phrase to use.
No,
Being
that's
yeah,
exactly what
yeah,
it is.
that's
I always talk about, like, that's what this whole show is. It's about figuring out who the hell you are and what your why is and your mission and all that. So,
right. So
be familiar with that.
once you know your mission statement, that will kind of guide you in terms of like what the music should give off. And yes, you want like you did, you said this is the kind of music that I like. So there's a certain amount of that, and then there's a certain amount of what are keywords that would describe your brand or your business or what you do. And then you also have to let the person you've hired to do the music trust their judgment to then bring what else is necessary because they'll take all your ideas of like, this is my mission statement. This is how I describe everything. This is the kind of thing I want. Because if you don't like classical music, then you're not going to like your brand having a classical feel. But on the other hand, trying to define it too much won't allow for the sound person to bring their special secret sauce.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and it's so true. It's like with any type of strategist, it's like you're so in the weeds of what you're doing and you understand all the complexities of adding all these things together. So if somebody's like, "Hey, I like this," it's like, "Cool, you might like that, but that might not fit with your brand itself or your audience or what they want to hear." And then there's also the whole psychological aspect of like everything that we were just talking about before. So adding all those layers together,
Right.
then the audio specialist can do their thing. But let's take it back, not so much the audio branding aspect of it, but more so in terms of trying to get the right feel for a piece of content. So something that I do a lot, I know my listeners are doing, they're creating like silly social posts, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it'll be interview content and they have to overlay a music track in the background, or they'll create some sort of clip with little like dings and zingers trying to catch people's attention. So when they're doing things like that, what are some tips or guidance you would give to make sure that the audio is aligned with the message and to make sure that the music track essentially doesn't overpower the overall message they're trying to convey?
Yeah, good questions. So, if I mean, do you really need to have music behind the interviews? Is a good starting point.
Yeah,
If the interviews needs music to carry the energy, then you probably need a different interviewee because they're boring. So,
that is
you know,
awesome. True.
think about your interview techniques. Like a boring interviewee can be made better by a good interviewer. You create that energy. Don't rely just on the music because the music can be distracting. And I don't think I've ever heard, unless it's like one of those 60-second kind of Vox Pop MTV type interviews where it's just like snappy.
Mhm.
But even then, the music would be it would be instrumental. So if you are picking music, I'm jumping about all over the place. If you are picking music, for God's sake, make sure it's instrumental. If you have vocals there, you're fucked.
Yeah,
So
I can attest to that. Anytime I'm ever choosing a piece for social, if it has words, it's immediately no. It's like I'll listen to it and I'll think it's an audio, like just an instrumental track, and all of a sudden I hear like a yay or something. I'm like, get out of here.
right, yeah, I mean, little vocal shouts or gang vocals won't get in the way as much as like a lead vocal, but maybe it'll be more of a distraction because you think it's just and then like halfway through like a salient point the interview is making, it'll be like a oh,
Yeah, I don't think this.
what? So make it instrumental. But then, like I said, do you actually need music? Like if it's a super long interview, like this is turning probably turning out to be like it's going to have having music throughout, you're going to lessen the impact of when music does actually come in. You got to think like having wall to wall music in a film or in a podcast, it just lessens the impact if it's just there all the time. So, and if it's a short, snappy interview, yes, you could get away with something that's short and snappy, but do you need it? So there's that. What was the question?
So okay, so
It's
what?
about
How?
music and there's about like something about other things you can
Yeah.
do.
So like the things that I'm envisioning right now is when people are creating like the social post. So yes, there's like the interview content, but then there's also taking like B-roll clips and forming a story and trying to pair that with audio. So I guess trying to get that like for me personally, if I'm creating like a hockey video, I'm trying to do something high energy like that. I'm trying to find the right audio track to pair with this and like the scene jumps and stuff like that. Like what's like your best tips there to get music that matches the visuals?
Gotcha. Right. There's two aspects. So if you're choosing audio, don't choose it that doesn't align with your mission statement. So we talked earlier about creating your own branding audio wise. But even if you don't do that, you should still know how your brand, your mission statement, and your values align with music in general. So you don't choose it like you wouldn't have Planned Parenthood using Metallica,
Yeah.
for instance. Like,
Probably wouldn't spark the right reaction in their audience.
no, or System of a Down,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you might have big like truck place in Rhinebeck uses System of a Down because that's like
And it's
that's what they are.
appropriate.
They're trucks and it's manly, manly, manly. Not that that's
Yeah. And no, like mentally, like just hearing
yeah,
that, I'm
it,
pretty
it's like
sure. Oh yeah, okay.
that's the vibe they want to give off. So because and this is it's related, but it's slightly different. But I listen to Radio Woodstock a lot, and it's been super fun because obviously when I lived in the city, radios weren't a thing. So now it's like coming here and listening to Radio Woodstock all the time. I get to hear all the radio ads, and they range from great to oh my god, how did they let that thing on air? Did not someone not tell them that it needs
Wait,
fixing?
whole time out. They don't have radio in the city?
Well, there's radio stations in the city, but like you don't listen to it.
Okay. Yeah. I was like,
It's
hold on.
it's
Did I feel like a
it
black
was
hole?
I mean, I guess we could have, but we never did because it was always like we play Spotify, we have, the reggaeton playing on the streets, thank you neighbors. So it wasn't a thing, whereas here, actually, it was just like the first day we moved in, it was like, "Hey, Google, play NPR." And it's like, "No, let's find radio." Which
Yeah. That's so funny. But yeah, no, some of the
for
radio
whatever
ads.
reason, it was the first time I was, like, exposed to radio ads for a long time. So there's, like, bad lyrics, just weird and this is music jingles that they've chosen to create. Bad lyrics, weird music, shitty audio, like, it sounds like they recorded in the bathroom compared to another person who, it sounds great. There's bad copy, which is we're going out sound, but it's like, check your fucking get it right.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to be like, get that right. But even if you're using library music, there's an advert for a law firm at the moment. So if you depending on when this goes out, you probably can guess who it is. But they're using stock library music, and it's like it's right for the feel of the ad, but you listen to it, and it's like stock corporate music. It's like, oh, that doesn't make me want to hire them. It just
Oh, yeah.
makes you think, oh, you seem a bit kind of two dimensional.
Same thing. If you see some business using stock photos that you've seen 100 times before, it's the same thing as if you're using stock audio. It's like you're just like, that was the best you got. Like, really? You're not really putting much thought into this, and you don't. It's not really making you stand out. If anything, it's making you stand out for the wrong reasons.
Right, and it's not that it's bad to use it, but you just gotta be careful, like, when you use it, and this is underscore, but also it was tailing the commercial. So it was like he finished saying his phone number, and it was like, and there's the emotional bit of music, and it's like, oh, now it's super exposed. And it's not like it's a well-known stock music piece, if there is such a thing, but it was just there and exposed and just said, ew, as opposed to other commercials that have strong, they're jingly jingles for sure. They're like sound like cheesy commercial jingles, but they're super strong. And like I can thing any number of commercials from Radio Woodstock that have these strong jingles like Rondout Savings Bank. It's there. I don't like it, but it pops into my head all the time. And, if I'm thinking of a bank, it'd be like, that would be the first bank I think of. So, I mean, that speaks back to the branding and the messaging and the whole memory thing is like it sticks in your head. Interestingly, a couple of the commercials, we've gone way off track here, but it kind of tied in one brand that doesn't use music, but they're always advertising it makes me think, it's like, oh, if I need new tires, I'll go there. I've never used them, but it's just the power of repetition, the power of memory. And his audio for their adverts, it's always good. It's not, doesn't sound like it was recorded in a bathroom. The copy's good. It's not shitty copy that annoys the fuck out of me.
Mm.
It's so good. So that is kind of, that's tangential, but it ties in.
No, 100%.
So
And on that note too of like the repetition, it's like if you are paying the money to be on the radio or something like that, and you have like what you said, it sounds like you're recording in the bathroom, or it's just like a weird copy that you're like, who wrote this? Who proved this? Like, how did this get out there? You're gonna remember that of being like, what the hell was that? But you're not gonna necessarily remember the brand. You're just gonna remember that was a really weird commercial. And then every time it comes on, you're gonna be like, ugh, this is making my skin crawl. So it's like those little things or actually working for or against your brand at all times. So it's a matter of doing it right or doing it the fast, easy route and just hoping for the best. It's like if you take strategic action and actually like think about the things you're putting out there, you're either going to have a visceral reaction or oh, I'm going to remember this brand for whenever I need tires or whatever the situation is.
yeah, power of advertising. Yeah, that's for sure. But to actually answer your question, so there's that one thing is like choose audio that aligns with your brand and your mission statements, whether you're paying someone to do it or you're choosing library music and if or stock music. And if you're using stock, be really fucking careful how you use it. If let's say going back to your thing is like you're putting together a story and you're putting together different B-roll footage and then you're trying to find some music to go with it. So think about the story. Whose story is it? And it might be your brand, but like who in this sequence of shots that you put together, there's only one character. So who is it?
Yep.
Who is that person? And make your sound reflect that person. So if it's a bunch of footage about, I don't know, just, I can't think of any, I don't know, a teenager, make sure the music aligns with what would that teenager be listening to,
Right.
but also that aligns with your brand as well. So make sure it's not too disparate.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then,
Usually the subject in the video would tie back to the brand. So it's like, as long as you are creating content that is actually effective for your brand, you shouldn't have like a huge crossover. So I think
right.
that to keep in mind too is like, if you feel like that your subject of a video or something is wildly off course from what your business is, probably shouldn't make that piece of content to begin with. But yeah, tying it back into the audio side of it.
Yeah. So there's only one character. So don't think, oh, this is a shot of some birds in nature before we cut to. I keep thinking of that ice hockey footage
Yeah.
that you, so, birds in nature before you go to ice hockey. Don't think, oh, I need birds. So I need like something pastoral and bucolic. And then
Yeah.
I'm going to go to like System of a Down for the ice hockey.
Yeah.
It's like it's the one character and then think beginning, middle, and end. It's like, yes, it might be birds, but what's that
What's the
leading
point?
to?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and think, what is the story? What are you telling? And here I'm going to go into education mode. There's a book called Seven Basic Plots, and it's all about how, as humans, how we've told stories for like thousands of years and the kind of psychology behind that and the reasoning behind that. And he breaks down every story into one of seven basic plots or a combo of. So you might have a bit of column A, a bit of column B. But you can look at any story and say, oh, this is one of these seven. The seven being overcoming the monster, which is Star Wars, Rags to Riches, Cinderella, The Quest, Lord of the Rings, Voyage and Return, Back to the Future, comedy, The Big Lebowski, tragedy, Citizen Kane, and Rebirth. So those are the seven you can mix and match. But think and it sounds a little bit kind of over cerebral maybe to be like create a piece of content and then saying, what is the seven? What are the seven basic plots? Is it? But this book, it's all about how as humans, we've told stories for hundreds, thousands of years. So there's something in our nature to want to attach a plot to that.
Mhm.
So think about whatever your piece of content is, what is the story in terms of those plots? And then that will help you with the beginning, middle, and end and the arc of the story. So
That makes total sense because, like, why, like whatever you're putting out into the world, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's whatever it is, there has to be a reason behind it, and you're not just gonna just like be like, "This is pretty, here you go." Like, why should people care? you have a story attached to it, it gives people a reason to care.
Yeah, I mean, even like, I mean, years ago there was cat video on the internet of it was like cats just like on a fence and then it leap up and it was, I think it was Imagine Dragons, but there was a song that went with it. It's like
Oh,
tail, and it was like it jump up and it was like,
yeah, Daryl, that
yeah.
one.
And even though that's completely stupid and thoroughly entertaining, there was still a story
Oh,
behind it.
really
It was a
entertaining.
story of like, I don't know, overcoming the monster, but it didn't finish. But it's like that's the story. It's like it's building up, and then the sale bar is that the monster's there.
Yep.
So even if your content doesn't, have a full arc of like resolution, it's still like think of it in
Yeah.
that. And it
Yeah,
was
that's like an
effective,
example.
right. I wish I could remember. Was it Imagine Dragons?
It was I think it was AWOL sale. I
That was
don't know.
yeah, no, that
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually called sale, but I know that's what the word
yeah.
was.
I'm glad you remembered it. Otherwise, it would have been it really existed.
No,
Um,
that's
um,
ingrained in my brain for forever.
so think of your story, think, and how is the music supporting that? Which was the answer to the question you asked about 2 days ago.
No, I love that. Okay, so then with that, with how we were talking about, like, how there's some radio ads that have horrible music and the stock footage or stock audio for the brands that don't have the budget to make custom audio and things like that. Like, what are some simple ways that they can make more intentional audio choices? Like, and again, like this can be just finding the best song in like a stock audio footage library. You know what I mean? Like, what are some things that they should consider there?
So first thing, don't, and I think you've spoken to this, don't use trending audio because it won't be trending af- after a certain point. So you'll just look dated and it might not fit with your brand. So just because, everyone's using it, yes, that might speak to the algorithm, but well, we don't speak of Met.
Yeah. You know,
Um,
it's like it might be trending, but it's trending because everyone else is doing it. So if you want to stand out, don't use that.
yeah, and find something that speaks to you and stick with it. So rather than switching it out each time, and not that you use like if say all your content is 60-second videos, you probably don't want the same music on each video, but something that you put at the end of your video that's your thing, stick with it, and then people will remember you for it, like the Apple chime, like the Netflix ta-dum. And this is blatant plug, but it may work out cheaper to actually pay someone to do it. So there's lots of things to unpack here. There's a billions of tracks on stock music sites. Even if you're super good at your metadata and like getting the keywords, you're still going to have to search through thousands and thousands of tracks that match your keywords. Do you have time for that? How many hours is it going to take to do that? To find the right track? And even if you do find the right track, good. So is everybody else is using those keywords. That track is not unique to you. It could be, you could be like, this is great. This is my brand. And then like some competing brand or a brand that has values that you do not align with is using that music. You can't like rights wise with stock music. Once you pay for it, you can do whatever you like with it, use it for the rest of your life and you can cut it up and use it in whatever. But you don't have access to the stems. You can't, if it's like, oh, it's just right, but I just want a little bit at the end there. You can't ask the writer for that.
Mhm.
Maybe you might get stems on some sites, but it's not guaranteed. You can't, so you can change it yourself, but you can't change it outside of what exists in the file. So you can
Right.
put it up.
And most of the people that are purchasing the stock audio sites, music tracks, whatever, don't really know how to edit it too. So there's that,
Right.
like,
Yeah. So
so when I worked in an agency and that was one of my jobs was sourcing audio for like campaigns and footages and all this stuff. And it was painstakingly painful. Like there's a reason why they gave it to the newest girl on the team was because it was a horrible, horrible task to have to sit
yeah,
through and try to find these things. So
it's boring
understandable.
AF, isn't it? Yeah. And you'll all you'll ever find, like 99% of the time, all you'll find is something that's good enough.
Yep. It's like, "This
Like,
could work. This is the best option that I can find out of this." Whereas instead of all that time you spend searching, finding it, and then being like, well, it's not even the best, but like it's the best of what I could find. Why not just go to the source, you originally, and being like, hey, I need help. Can you, this is what I need. This is what I need. Like, make it sound good.
Right. And this sounds like a just a giant big ass commercial for me, but it's not. It seriously, it takes so much time. Think of how much your hourly worth per hour. Like how much would you be charging if you're a consultant? And it's like, okay, and then multiply that by 20 or 30.
Mhm.
That's what you're effectively paying, even if your license fee is maybe only, you might think, oh, it's only 50 quid, dollars to get it off Palm 5 or wherever. It's like, sweet. And every other, so you've got the time, you got the fact that it's not exclusive to you. It's not, it's going to be only good enough and you can't make changes. Whereas if you hired someone to do it, yes, it might be an initial big investment, but it's uniquely yours and you'll sit with it and then you can do things, you can change it up a bit. Like like with your podcast theme, it's like if you have a Halloween version coming up, you can say, hey, can we make it just a little bit thriller? It's like, no problem. Then put some spooky stuff on or put some sleigh bells on for Christmas.
Yeah.
It can, you know, you can judge it to match your needs.
Scratch
So
the butt. Yeah. Like if somebody's creating content for, let's say, social, in terms of like the lowest barrier to entry here. So they're right now, they're probably just like grabbing their phone and recording. So like for me, the tip that I would give people is make sure that your fucking finger isn't over your mic. So it's not like gargly. But that's like the lowest barrier to entry for you on like a more professional. If you're saying, hey, you're going to record a podcast or you're going to record an interview, what audio tips do you have for recording that?
well, so if you're doing anything like a podcast, like it's learn some audio basics. It's like there's tons of info out there on the internet, and it just takes like a little bit of research of like what's best practices for getting a mic, like proper mic placement and speaking, mic placement and mic technique.
It's not necessarily just having a mic because there's people that will talk to them like right here. And then it's like, well, that's not the move.
Right. Or, you know, not setting the gain levels right. You don't want it to be too hard, otherwise it'll distort. And that's, well, it's fixable ish in post. But again, that's something you probably don't want to do, but just learn some basics.
And it's always easier to get the audio right the first time because I've definitely been in that position where I was recording a piece of content for a client and I didn't have the right equipment or I didn't set it up properly. And now I'm on the back end of it and the editing process is so much more painful because it's like, okay, well, now I have to try to strip the audio from this video file that we got. Now I have to try to say, okay, these are like background audio noises, try to strip that away. And like, there are tools out there that can like AI figure that out for you. But do you really want to go through the process of all that time of trying to edit it when you could literally just hit record, do it, be done, and then being like, okay, now I just have to like splice this up for social or whatever it is. Whereas now you can't just take the file that you created. Now you have to be like, okay, let me like dissect this, try to bring this up, bring this down. Like it's just, you get it
Yeah.
right from the get go. You avoid all of these headaches.
Yeah. The tools are there and they're great, but you can't polish a turd. And you can buy mics that plug into your phone. So
Yeah,
you can still use your phone to record, but it's like much better quality.
great. Yep.
Because even if your listeners, like, they might not be able to say, oh, this is a bit too much high end on this. And they might not be able to point exactly to what the problem is, but bad audio just sounds naff, especially because there is so much content out there. And people are, remember Tenet, where everyone was like, this sound was terrible, couldn't hear a word that people were saying. Like people complaining they couldn't hear the dialogue. That was probably Christopher Nolan's choice on the film to purposely make it bad, but people are used to good quality audio. So when it's bad, people are going to be like, something's off with that. Or even if they don't think this is bad audio, it's not going to sit right with them.
Yeah, like the
Um,
content won't be as impactful and they won't know why it's not as impactful, but they have no interest in sticking around and listening to it or watching it. And they're like they don't think anything of it. But the reason is because they're like, I can't hear this, or it's just not high quality.
Yeah. Tim Ferriss once said like years ago, he was like, oh, it doesn't matter about audio quality, just like get it out there. I disagree. And also many of his listeners do because I was looking into this and a lot of people have been like, I can't listen to his podcast anymore because the audio quality is so bad.
Yeah.
So,
I have definitely turned off podcasts that sound like they're recording in a shower. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Like,
Why are you doing this? Why are you insulting? Like, why am I giving you my time listening to this if it's such a piece of shit
yes.
audio?
It's like,
Like,
if you couldn't figure out the proper way to record this, why should I give you the proper attention to do it? And it sounds rude and it sounds like, oh, she's a fucking bitch. But like in reality, it's like, I don't want to listen to something that I have to struggle to. Like with anything, if it's like I say this all the time with design, if it's hard for your audience to read your piece of content, they're not going to read it. Same thing with if you're doing an audio format type of content, if it's hard for them to listen to it, they're not going to listen to it. Like you have
yeah,
to think of the medium that you're sending the message through and like optimize.
yeah, or don't do it.
Yeah. Or just say, okay, that is not the format for me. If it's too much for you to do to get a proper setup or whatever it is, like don't just do it to do it. And I feel like we're in that world where everyone's like, oh, just more content, more content, more content. And so people just start pushing things out there. But do you really want to be polluting to the noise, or do you want to be creating something that people will remember you for the right reason that will then benefit your audience, your brand, and all those things?
There's a podcast called 20K Hertz, 20k.org is the thing. You can put it in your show notes. It's about how certain sounds are created. Like, I'm not sure if there is an episode on the Netflix to done, but it's that kind of thing. Is like, well, they'll be like, this is how they made that sound. This is why that sound is effective. It's super interesting. And then the guy who runs that podcast is a guy called Dallas Taylor, who Drew's friends with. Um,
Very cool.
and he is dallastaylor.wav, WAV on Instagram. And if you follow him, he does these little short bits of content about like, it's easy to record. I think he did a post recently about like how there's no excuse for bad audio. Like it's so easy. And I think he says actually, this is recording on my phone, but there's obviously ways to do it. But like he's saying there's no excuse for it. So there's little kind of short nuggets that can help you kind of get your sound right and understand what went into other sound things for content.
I love that. Definitely. I'm gonna check it out. So listeners should
Mm.
definitely check that out too, because why if it's there, why not learn from it? What would you say as like a final like quick tip, or what would you summarize that people should take away from this episode?
If you're going to take away one thing from this conversation, or if your listeners were going to take away one thing from this conversation, it is don't underestimate how important audio, both audio quality and sound and music, is in your content, and don't insult your audience by assuming it's okay to post a piece of shit. If you go
I
to if
yeah.
you verbatim, if you go to a restaurant, yeah, imagine you go into a restaurant and you're like, great, I'm gonna have mussels marinara. And the chef's like, it's all right, it's just fish in it. And gives you like a half-assed kind of thing. You're gonna be like, that's not good.
You're
Even
like,
even
I didn't have the salmon.
right. Well, you might not know what's wrong with it. Like a chef could taste it and be like, oh, this is missing this. You might not know what's wrong with it, but you know it's not kind of hitting the mark. So don't underestimate it, and don't be afraid of it. Like some people are mighty afraid of anything technical, and there's so much information on the web. You can just like get it, and it's not expensive to get decent quality equipment if you're doing stuff on
Yeah.
the regular.
And I would also say pay attention to what pieces of content and things that you stick around and listen to versus the ones that you automatically scroll past or the ones that you stop midway through, and just kind of just be aware and be like, why? Like, if you see
Mm,
yourself turning something off, be aware that you turned it off and try to figure out why. Like, if you can
yeah,
figure out why you're not interested in certain pieces of content, it'll help you make better pieces of content for your brand. You'll start to see that sometimes you turn off a piece of content because the audio was a little scratchy, or you'll be like, this music just didn't sit right with me, or you'll start
totally.
to notice these things that just felt like it was more of a visceral feeling than a conscious choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you're not making the decision to say, this was bad audio, so I turn this off. It's more like, don't like this, turn this off. Okay, why did we turn this off? Let me think about it.
Why didn't I like it? Yeah. Could because someone was too close to the microphone.
Yep, exactly.
That's really annoying. Or the music's too loud. if you're using trending audio and it's like, oh God.
Yep. Or
So,
like, yeah, I always think back to like when you would download music off LimeWire, and it was like sometimes those songs would just come onto like the iPod and it'd be like,
yeah,
and then there were others that were like super quiet. It's like there was a reason why we skipped those songs on our iPod because we were just half deaf when
right.
started screaming at you. And again, that was audio quality.
Yeah, it's just the volume of things.
If people want to connect with you, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they hire you?
They can, all of the above. You can do, well, the socials is like a shifting thing. So I will say you can, probably the best place is my website, which is julianblackmore.com, or you can find me on the Instagram, julian.blackmore.
Perfect. And I'm going to link
Or,
all you in the show notes, everything. But
cool. Or just see me at the next Connect HV.
yeah, if you're local to the Hudson Valley, come hang
Yeah.
out at Connect HB.
Find me at Hannaford or outside Rough Draft on a Wednesday morning doing the run.
I love it.
Just-
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.